There is a silent epidemic which challenges business, and actually it's a little bit of an oxymoron when you look at, I use the word silent epidemic. Effective communication. There is so much miscommunicated or uncommunicated direction in business today where, our people and our teams don't have clarity in what's expected of them, what they've been tasked to do, what they've been tasked to complete, how they're supposed to go about and complete it. And it creates this ripple effect in a business where suddenly, we end up with poor expectations on, our team because they're not really totally understanding, but we're completely, unaware that they don't understand what's required of them. And in the same context, customers. How many times do we miscommunicate or, not communicate clearly with our customers in terms of expectation? So this epidemic is something that we as business owners, as executives, as managing directors can actually start to do something about. Start to shift the way that we recognize firstly our ability to communicate, and then start to really focus and work on effective communication. Now, the point there is effective communication is something that you need to nurture and develop in yourself. So self-reflection is absolutely the first port of call. And one of the things that I use always when I self-reflect on my effective communication is the phrase that communication drives the response that I get. So if my communication has been anything less than clear, then I could almost certainly expect low responses from those that I've communicated with. So when you look at that, what's the response that you get? Do you go back to team members and your people because there's inefficiency, because a task hasn't been completed in following the direction and the limitations that you've set? Or is there a high level of clarity in that respect, and where you are actually effectively communicating? So when we have those challenges, what we've got to do as business owners is take ownership. We've got to really take responsibility for the level of communication that we have. And I think the very first thing is to have a focus in terms of your own communication style. And it will probably be linked directly to your leadership style. So what does that look like? When you hold the mirror up, and if you were to communicate to yourself, would it be clear for you to understand what you're saying? Would there be, options for actually doing it better? If you apply that principle of communication as the response that you get, is there room for improvement? The second one is really kind of incredibly useful, is when we start to look at creating active listening, where we start, as part of the communication, it's not just waiting for us to be able to speak, it's actively waiting and listening to understand. Seek first to understand before you respond. Now, when you look at that, there's a bit of an oxymoron on this one as well, because if you take the word listen and jumble those words up again, you'll get silent. And the power of silence is incredible when we start to look at communication. The ability to ask a question and then shut up, to not answer the question yourself, the ability to seek direction and ask for it, and then actually allow that direction to come flowing back towards you. When you shut up, and what you listen to can have a massive impact. And remember this, listening isn't just about listening with your ears. It's about listening with your eyes and your heart. You can see and tell a lot about what you witness in someone when you're listening to them. And when you're listening with your heart, you become more empathetic to the situation, and that builds a relationship, and a strong relationship means you're going to have better communication. Setting clear expectations. So when you set about giving direction, make sure that you're giving that direction with clarity. Make sure that there are clear limitations, there are constraints, there is direction in terms of the next step of where they need to get to, what they need to complete. So giving that clarity, making sure that it's really crystal clear for someone. Again, give somebody a level of empowerment and autonomy to go away and do what needs to be done without feeling that the moment you've given instructions, they have no clue what you've just asked them to do. And what about embracing transparency? When you embrace transparency, we start to really drive and focus on the ability to have strong relationships, ones that built on, I guess, a basis of vulnerability and trust, where people won't feel silly to say or ask a question because they haven't got clarity, and rather they will seek that clarity in terms of determining what the necessary steps are, what they need to do, what's been asked of them. You can also look at leveraging communication tools. One of them that I use quite regularly is actually video in an email. So rather than typing and seeking that miscommunication, because people, they will fill the gaps in terms of what's written. They will almost add their own tone to what is written. I'll send a video email. There is no ambiguity. It's really quite clear. You can see my lips moving. You can see my facial expression. You can see and hear my tonality. So using and leveraging communication tools is another great way to engage with effective communication. And what about positive feedback when you're listening to somebody? And that's just the very small nuances of shaking your head, saying yes, letting them know that you're actively listening to them, that you're not disappeared off somewhere else and just waiting them for finish so you can start talking. When you start to look at this, if you take all of those things, if you look at your team, if you look at yourself right now, the final bit that will really help on effective listening is to put constant training in there, to recognize that actually we can improve our ability to communicate to each other, to communicate effectively. So I hope that's useful. Dive into the article. There's a lot more information in there, but effective listening is absolutely a key to actual business effectiveness and business growth. Hope that's helpful. Thanks a lot.